On my fingertip is a giant sequoia seed, and it contains all the genetic information needed to grow the world's largest tree. Sequoias need fire to open their cones and release their seeds. They've evolved alongside challenge and know that fire creates the perfect conditions for growth. Fire clears away the debris on the forest floor so our little seed can find some soil. Fire burns away the smaller plants, reducing competition for resources like sunlight and water. Fire is an opportunity. And those seeds can remain in the cone for up to 20 years, just waiting for the perfect time to begin their journey. Not every seed will sprout, but those that do can live for 3,000 years or more. They can grow to become the largest living things in the world by volume, creating habitat and food sources for creatures big and small along the way. Sequoias have been on our planet for 200 million years since the Jurassic, and to become so successful, they've had to create partnerships, using longevity and cooperation to their advantage. These are wise trees. To survive fire, sequoias have enriched their bark with a chemical called tannins. Now, some people say, oh, I've heard that word before. Tannins, they're in my wine and in my tea. Well, lots of plants make tannins to protect themselves from disease, insects, rot, fire. But tannins are a pretty expensive substance to make, so not a lot of plants are putting a ton of energy into it. But sequoias know they are here for the long haul. So they invest in producing a lot of tannins, which gives them their signature cinnamon red color and helps them resist being burned by fire. As you can imagine, the sequoia story continues underground. Sequoia roots are actually quite shallow. They only go deep into the ground about 9 feet, but instead of growing deep, those roots spread wide as the trees are tall. And all of the sequoias in a grove interweave their roots, and they help hold each other up. They need their friends for strength and their community for support. And those grounded roots are the platform they need to rise towards the sun. Sequoias, they're kind of like us. They just reach a certain height and then they start getting wider because they're after the sun. So when they pop out of the canopy and they're getting all the sunlight they need, they don't need to put any more liability into growing taller. So that's when they stop growing up and start putting their energy into growing wide and strong. Sequoias know their limits. And with a show of hands, how many of you have visited the sequoia trees? Oh, excellent, most of you. And how many of you have noticed sequoia trees growing together, fused together? Nice, many of you. So yes, sequoias can join forces. Now lots of other trees, firs or pines, if they're growing close together, their bases might fuse, but those trees will be in competition with one another. But sequoias have a different strategy. It's like they say, friend, we're growing here together. We're both going to be growing for thousands of years. We might as well join together and become one. So they will fuse their cambium layer, that's the living layer of the tree, and they actually become one tree. It's like they know cooperation is better than competition. But even if you've never been to Sequoia National Park, if you've seen a picture of a sequoia tree, you've likely noticed one of their beautiful fire scars. So typically starting at the base of the tree, a fire scar looks like a curtain being pulled back to some kind of blackened interior. And that is, of course, where the tree has been touched by a little too much fire. But luckily, these trees are incredible healers. And they can put their energy wherever they need it to go. So, say a fire has come through, burned into the tree, a sequoia will put its energy into curling that bark around to seal up that scar. Maybe the tree is growing near a wet meadow's edge. Well, that moist ground is unstable, so a sequoia will widen out its base so it won't fall over. They are masters of adaptation and self-improvement. But although sequoias are well suited for hardship, we are facing a new era. Giant sequoias are an endangered species. Their biggest threats are fire suppression, drought, and climate change. Sequoias have adapted to face so many challenges, but if they don't have what they need, they can't go on. They need low-intensity fire, not huge wildfires. But fire fights fire. Prescribed burns help sequoias by reducing fuel loads, so when a fire happens, it's not an uncontrollable inferno. Prescribed burns are intentionally set fires, burning low and slow to mimic the natural fire cycle. Fire is a natural and important part of the ecosystem. A little self-care goes a long way. You know, it's hard not to take the lessons sequoias teach us and compare them to the human experience. Sequoias are patient. They wait for the right time to sprout. They invest in protection so they can thrive during difficult times. They ground themselves in community and partnership. And they put energy into healing themselves so they can be resilient. As you visit the sequoia forest, you might feel so many special feelings of wonder. And as you walk through all of those trees, it's the perfect ones that we walk right by. But it's the ones that have encountered challenge that we admire the most. Those are the stories that inspire us. It's the challenge that helps us grow. In 1890, when sequoias became protected, the national park didn't know sequoias needed fire. And they put out all the fires. But the native people did know. And they had been doing their own controlled burns. They were masters of awareness, using the power of observation to guide their understanding. Today, I urge you to follow that wisdom, making your own observations about what's happening in the natural world. Because from tiny seeds, grow mighty trees. Thank you.